November 12th meeting of 2229 Main Street Advisory Task Force. I'm the chair, Paul Bell. Let's call the roll. Go around the room.
Rich Feely here.
Pam Rockwell here.
Carl Seidman here.
Pam Hill here.
David Ropeik here, and Paul Bone was here. I think Court's going to join us later. He said it about 8, and Kurt has a conflict, and Gary is in Kathmandu once again. So we are here. It is
Lahore, where the air pollution is literally deadly to walk outside. The particulate, it's going to Lahore first, he told me on the 16th, we're in Lahore. The fine particle count in the air is literally potentially deadly to breathe, deadly, not eyes, not increases cardiovascular risk. Deadly, that 1,000, the highest rating the WHO has is 400, and that's in like the past orange and red, that's the purple page. It's more than double the highest WHO rating.
for anybody looking at this recording.
That's all right.
We're talking about Kathmandu.
Yeah.
We're not talking
I'm not talking about Main Street.
Yeah, okay, we got a pretty tight agenda today. Let's go through the minutes. So, you have in your packet October 30th minutes. Any comments, questions? Edits, suggestions on the minutes? Okay, good job. Do I have a motion? to
Second.
approve? Would you make a motion to approve?
Yes.
Do I have a
Second.
Okay, let's go around, motion, approve the minutes. Rich,
Aye.
Pam, I.
Pam,
Aye.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
aye, David, and Paul, aye, and the minutes of October 30th are approved. Mr. Hack, thank you, Rich, again.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with my time.
We'll find something. So tonight, the major thing is, I want to discuss the report, but the two pieces of the, well, just step back. I think the report is in good shape. I have diminishing number of comments, now they're down to 0, which is a good sign. There are two pieces that are still in motion. One's glossary, and one is the appendix 4.4, which is the insurance memo, which we're going to talk about tonight. The glossary, which Rich Feely has control over now. Please send any comments or edits to Rich. That's in pretty good shape, but I don't want to spend time this meeting discussing the glossary. I think it's a very useful section. Thank you for pulling that together. Others have pulled, Carl, thank you for your input. That's going to be part of the report. I think I have to apologize. I sent you multiple iterations of the reports that we didn't print it out because things have been added. The last thing was a photo that I asked Bruce if he could send up a drone. He did send up a drone,
Yeah.
apparently. And he got a nice
shot.
He got a nice bleed shot.
Beautiful.
It's a really nice shot. It shows the foreground of the bog and the woods, and it shows Powder Mill on the left, and it shows the work on the site, which is pretty extensive. And
And my first reaction to it was, why didn't they zoom in on the site? Oh, wait, the bog is part of the site.
right.
Yay.
So I dropped that in with a caption, and we could talk about the caption. Please send me any edits on the caption, and we won't talk about that here. It's not gonna be a cover photo, I just put it on the second page. To that point, we've been discussing production, formatting, and I asked Kara if Skio would be available to assist with production and formatting. I'm feeling right now we may not need that. That we probably need one final edit just to make sure we got punctuation, grammar correct, but it's in pretty good shape. I think it looks good. It has the format's in pretty decent shape. It looks like it's almost ready to be printed as is, if we want to print it. And to that end, I think select board is going to need 5 or 6 copies, but other than that, we're not going to print it. It's going to be an electronic version. I don't think we'll print any of the appendices unless the select board wants them. I haven't asked Terry that, I will a little bit later. So the bottom line, I think the report to me looks in good shape, good enough to finalize and submit to the select, well, finalize vote on it. And then get the select board. My suggestion, we can kind of talk about that as we talk about the report tonight. And that our next meeting on the November 26th. We would vote on the report, we vote on accepting the report. And that would be our last meeting. We have December 13th on the schedule, we could use that, but I don't think we're gonna need it. I think we have relatively little to discuss in the substance of the report, unless we want to bring up some issues here. The only real substance, I think, is the insurance memo, which I think is important, so that I will devote some time to that tonight. But that was my kind of sense of where the report is and, you know, the voting schedule and submission schedule, so we get it to the select board mid-December. And probably they'd want to meet with us sometime after the first of the year. I don't know what presenting the report to the select board is, but I think they're gonna want to read it and discuss it. And but submitting it, there has to be time for that to read it, so I think we're probably into scheduling with them in early January, depending on what their other priorities are to discuss the report, so. I just open that for comment on any of the report,
What about a public presentation of it beyond, in other words, there was some talk of having a public hearing after the report and recommendation. And I heard that from a couple of the select board members, I thought, but
I
where
also,
are we with that?
yeah, well, they're two separate events right now. I think we haven't closed on having the presentation at the select board, the open meeting. Because the public attends those,
Yes,
and the
right.
public can ask questions at those, so, you know, I have to talk with Terry and Mary about how to do that, so. It could be two separate, Terry, you wanna weigh in on that, do you have any thoughts on sort of, the logistics of the end game here?
I think I heard the same thing you guys did, that we're gonna have some kind of public forum after the select board reads it and it's out on the website, so maybe we could schedule that for January or February or something like that.
Okay, so they're two separate events, the select board meeting to discuss with the select board is online. Maybe for 30 days, so the public can read it. And then we have a public forum. The task force is in business until May of next year, which is 2 years from our date, so we don't expire. So we have time, so I guess. Sort of where we are, any other further thoughts or comments on the other?
Mr. President, who's gonna do the final, like, proofreading of it?
Saying who?
Yeah.
We were discussing that before the meeting, do you wanna,
We could probably have staff, take, a few runs at it, I can do a review, I think Donna McIntosh may have, some time, depending on when, this gets finished.
I just think it would be good to have someone who has not read it and is not familiar with it.
exactly, so I think it would be staff. Kind of leave it up to Chris and Megan and Donna so it would be. I think it's ready to be proofed right now, the only thing
Yeah, I
that's missing,
think so too.
the missing piece is the glossary and the insurance memo, are kind of separate, so, if we agree, we don't need a vote, I just wanted the sense, if we can get this into proofing right now, is there any reason why we wouldn't put it into proofing, Rich?
The only other question I had was, sounding like Pam's question here, but did town council review it? Presumably, we don't want them reviewing it after it's been proofread and formatted and all that sort of stuff.
Megan, decided, that not to send it to town council
Okay.
for review. She copied us, I think the sense was that everything in the legal section, that basically, the determination of what could be revealed and not, was a town decision, and it was Kerry's decision and Megan, so they had a decision, I think, I don't know if anybody has any comments, so it was Megan's
I
decision.
recall that,
Not to send that out.
along the way, though, town council did have a chance to offer some feedback about what should or shouldn't be. Was the feedback given to Megan, I think, not just us directly.
Yeah,
There's some recollection that there is feedback from town council reflected in the modifications of the legal section, is that correct?
Yeah, there was deciding what was in there, what confidential memos are really confidential, what could be included as an appendix, what could be referred to, that was town council and.
So short of any dramatic changes after that, it reflects that input.
Well, the input is the input about what was privileged and what.
Yeah,
was-
right, which,
Which is a narrow thing. I think the thing that would, in a very cautious world, a world that I live in, you would have town council looking at the aggregate of things that might together appear to put us into a particular box or something, but, you know, obviously it's his decision, or I guess it was their decision, but I think it's not just a matter of privilege, it's a matter of just the totality of certain pieces of this document that contain sort of indications of legal direction or point of view, and they've made that decision, it's up to them.
Sounds like.
But I think different people could have different opinions about that, and I would be one of them.
Yeah.
Probably, I think.
It, you know, just. It was a town decision, it was a task force decision.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Town council, not task force
I
council.
don't wanna get into a lot of detail, you know, we thought we were going in that direction. It was deemed unnecessary, Megan reviewed the report, provided some comments on it, so she's already done some comments and. Not in the legal section, but overall, and I think it was more on Carl's section.
Right, it was
That you addressed.
more cautious about potential revenue.
Yeah, that was a major thing, you know, let's downplay the revenue, so there's, if you look closely, you can find the evidence, section 7, there's an asterisk.
There's a little footnote.
There's a footnote in the column of revenues, right, that's the addition, and Ned was happy with that change. Okay, so that's kind of how we'll proceed,
So there are a couple little things where it's like there's a place for a date, and now I have the date for like the memo in the file and stuff like that. Do you want those emailed to you?
yeah, any final edits, additions, get it to me quickly, yeah.
Are we making general comments now, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, we're doing that. And this, I've made this sort of general comment, but I haven't actually had time, or I've just had to back off on this particular part of my life a little bit, but I am, I think there is room to articulate the primary stewardship responsibilities we have, and we have this business case thing, which I think is in the charge, and I think we downplay, or I think we need to assert the stewardship, the primary stewardship responsibilities of the town. And that it is a governance body, it's not a business. And I wish we could somehow find a way to, in a sentence or two, to make that statement. It might occur in the beginning of the business section, you know, something like, clearly, this is a municipality and our primary responsibilities are governance, and governance is not business. I personally would rather see that. I didn't draft anything. Part of me didn't want to push back too much because I don't want to be pushing against Joe, you know, either. But I did wanted to make that statement. That
No, but you're right, I think if you read the report in totality, and put aside the business case section, and it's clear we're addressing this to municipality, it's clear we're articulating what the municipality's responsibilities are in managing the site and in doing all things to protect the town. And at the same time to make use of the property beneficially, I think we made that point.
I think it would be nice to have a salient point in the business part, which makes the statement that we are a municipality, because frankly, if I were writing the charge, And I would never, I don't think, it's not a business, and I think the introduction of business lenses itself is somewhat problematic to me. But that may be a kind of unusual view, but I wish that we could say something that probably would land in the beginning of the business piece, where we say, clearly, this.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, my reaction, I mean, I spent 3 years in business or law school. I can probably come up with weasel words. I was thinking of something along the lines of, while the responsibilities of the town government in making this decision are broader, the business case, i.e. the potential economic benefit to the town is then go on with the next thing.
Or more emphatically, say.
how does that section read right now?
I don't have it.
It just has to kind of keep editing the thing, do you wanna take a look at your? I'm hoping, if you could add
Yeah, no, I'll send you
introductory-
something.
You can add an introductory sentence that kind of
Yeah, I'll
acknowledges that
send
this is
you
a business.
a suggested edit. in the morning.
I mean, you read the section, even though it says business case, it really talks about
Yeah, no, I
the
mean,
value to the town,
yeah, right.
more than it is a financial
Yeah,
business.
I mean,
case.
but I
It'd be
think-
very easy to have a first sentence that was an emphatic and affirmative statement that this is a town with municipal governance. And the governance is what the lens is, not business, but having said that,
I mean,
you know.
I'm not sure what they actually meant by that
I don't
term,
think they
so,
probably didn't.
and
really
maybe
think
they
about it too
meant
much.
fiscally sound.
I think so, financially, good or financially.
Which might be different than,
That might be
an
a
actual
better,
business
better.
case, and it would have been a clearer way to say it.
Maybe just changing the title of the section. The financial case or the value case.
Mhm.
Could you look at the section and see if you can?
I think they asked for a business case, let's
They
give
did.
it, let's say.
That's what they did ask for
Say a
that.
business case, but pointing out that the business of the town is municipal governance, not. Just
The welfare of the population.
the welfare of the population as well as.
So you don't disagree, I mean, I think that would be very nice, that clarification that our business is actually governance and our governance lens does not always and often doesn't take us to a business like a business, traditionally business conclusion, which is about profit.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're about.
Yeah.
So just if you could do that, I mean, I think
Okay, see if we can do that. I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone's gonna take it the wrong way, as it is.
it's
but-
the whole semantics mean a lot and,
Yeah.
and,
That's the only place in the whole report that the word business, I think, appears, it's in this.
Yes.
it's a full section and it's in the charge, so it'd be lovely to correct, I love
But I,
what you said was great, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe you could help with learning.
Yeah,
you want
and-
me to try to write something and send it to you, or?
Yeah, write
You
something,
said it to me.
write something short that doesn't change the format to the whole thing.
And you wanna-
Doesn't get into-
I think we also have to recognize there's a faction in town that thinks if the town wastes money on its operations. And I think we've got to make the case that, particularly the early expenditures of legal fees and planning money is an appropriate investment for something that would be a major benefit to the populace as a whole and town operations. Yeah, let me see what
Yeah, if you,
Pam Rockwell.
if you look at the section, you change the title. And put the value case and the financial case. I think it.
I
the rest of that-
I think you'd leave it the name, because that's what they said in the.
They are right, exactly.
The same way we have a institutional control plan, because that's what they said.
I think it's sort of a corrective, it's a reminder, it's a,
Okay,
I think it's an assertive statement, and I don't want to violate town, public meeting, but if you can pass it on to me too, I
well, thank you for bringing it up. I think my job is to get everybody maximally comfortable. If that makes you uncomfortable, I think it's important.
well, it shouldn't be just to make people comfortable, it should have substantive
Great.
reason behind it, I mean, I would hardly want you, Paul, to try to be making me comfortable.
Nobody would disagree that the town's not a business. And that the word business in there, I'm not gonna ask the select board why they put that in there, but. It's in there, so let's work with it. Okay,
I think you could say it flat out, you could recognize it, but it was stated in the charge, and then clarifying, like, as Pam was suggesting, might be very, very lovely to do.
okay.
It's near the end where there aren't as many things you can throw off by adding another lot.
Right. Yeah. So what's going to happen here is with that edit. With the final glossary, so please get any comments to Rich on the glossary, and I think. I'll add the final glossary as the comments with that change. And then we'll get the insurance letter, which we can talk about now, in there. That complete package I'll send to you. Hopefully. By early next week. So that when you sit down on the 26th. You have the thing that we're gonna send out for proofing, or maybe we will have sent that out. Don't worry about the proofing part of it.
Do you want appendices sent back out to the crowd again, or do you want it back to you, just so you have it to
The list of
the
appendices.
actual appendices? I've got the copies of them. You also have the copies of them, you sent me one that was changed, and we have the new one from Chris that was sent out. But it's
Yeah,
the
let's
other-
send out the actual appendices.
I'll send you the actual appendices to everyone, or just you.
Just me.
Okay.
And I'll put it in there, I'll send it out with the whole report.
Paul, do you expect I'm probably, we're tied up into moving off for Thanksgiving and stuff, or is that meeting gonna be long, cause I'm gonna try to,
I'm sorry, say again?
the meeting coming up right before Thanksgiving, do you expect that to be a long meeting? Cause we're heading out.
No, I don't.
10 minutes, 15 minutes.
I expect us to sit down and vote on the report. And
And
then
approve the minutes of this meeting.
go to Colonial Inn for wine.
Okay, that's good.
It's still open. I hope it's not a long meeting. I don't see anything else on the.
Yeah.
Other than maybe by that time I'll have some idea from the select board about scheduling, you know, I'll just talk about. Scheduling of the briefing and the public meeting, we have to get that on the calendar.
So that meeting is in 2 weeks, right?
Do
So
something.
maybe we want the report, the final version of the report out in a week, so people actually have time to get.
That's what I said, the beginning of next week. Yeah. Next Tuesday, that'll be my goal, sending it out. Hey. Very good, so let's turn to Chris's memo, and Chris, thank you for doing that. I think it's important, we have just this little paragraph in the report, which, it kind of says. They said, yeah, we can get into it, that's what they said, but I think this goes a little bit more deeper. I provided some comments, more clarifying comments, which, maybe I should share my version of through them. It has some red lines in there. Okay. So this is, we just scroll through this and,
Yes, maybe if I could just walk.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, walk through the memo, so, we had agreed to provide a little bit of a description of our insurance coverages, as in the charge and per request from you, task force members, so. We did put in like a kind of a summary paragraph in the report itself, and then, we sought to really kind of clarify the terms of coverage, in my memo, so. There's a brief description of the town's, participation in the Maya program and our current insurance portfolio. And then we get into precedents, it's really important, it's just, another reason why I recommended that we kind of, reference the appendix in the legal section, because insurance is a contract between the town and the insurance company to provide coverage, and it kind of goes in, it dovetails nicely with that section of the report. So the first section, talks about precedents, and the company that provided indicative, quotation is the same company that provided coverage for 37 Knox Trail from 2016 to 2019. And in fact, what we've seen is that the premiums have gotten, cheaper, so whatever it was, 8 years ago, we purchased, I think it was $5 million worth of coverage And it's, the coverage has gotten cheaper, so we can actually buy more, a higher limits of liability and more expansive coverage now. And I also wanted to kind of point out some of the different types of coverage. There are cleanup costs that the town is responsible for, that we would have insurance coverage for, the insurance company would pay for that. We've got third-party claims for cleanup costs, bodily injury, or property damage is a separate type of claim. Third type of claim is third-party claims for non-owned disposal sites. If we had any claims from, residents in Michigan who lived near the disposal facility, this coverage would speak to those types of claims. There's also third-party claims for contingent transportation, so the trucks or the trains that are shipping this contaminated soil from Massachusetts to Michigan, if those spilled and caused damage to someone else, this insurance would speak to that. And then the policy back then in 2016, 2019 did provide a carve out or an exclusion for coverage for violating a null or institutional control. I think that considering where premiums are and where the market is, that the town may be able to negotiate coverage for that. So it would be more expensive, but we might be able to exclude the deed restriction exclusion from the coverage. So we would just we'd buy more coverage with more premium for those types of claims. And I think that was the kind of violation of nulls was kind of at the heart of the loss scenarios that were described in section 3. So in section 2, it's a little bit of a summary of the indicative quote we got, I believe in August, from the same insurer, with a brief kind of description. And then in section 3, we talked a little bit more about the possible loss scenarios, and talked a little bit about who incurs the loss, or who's responsible for the loss, and who it damages, and how the insurance would respond. So right now, again, a violation of a deed restriction, according to this indicative quote, would not provide coverage. But again, I think that it's reasonable to assume at this point in time, we can negotiate for an expansion of coverage when we actually go to bind the coverage. So after we purchase the land, we would, they would do a survey and factor in lots of other things. Then we would actually negotiate with the insurance company the scope of coverage. And then there's just a list of qualifications in section 4, which just speaks to how conditional the market is right now and how things change kind of quickly. So
I want to point out that you gave us exactly what we asked for. We did ask about something else too, that you pointed out would be a negotiating point, how you would do negotiations. You really didn't want to put that in there. I would say delete section 5, which hasn't been written, and just take it as it is and don't cherry pick anything else.
Well,
And this is Chris's memo to the town task force.
I think one of the
Okay.
things that you have to, one of the questions is, it's what that means in real scenarios, and what does coverage mean? And what is the extent of coverage, and what is the possible exposure? And so one could read this in a very rosy way. We've got coverage for this, we've got coverage for that, but then what is the extent, and what is the possible through the loose scenarios which do occur in these sorts of situations? So I just would caution us to be not overly optimistic when we describe insurance coverage and make it sound too much like we've got extensive insurance coverage, when there are all the fine print things, and then there's the extent of coverage and the scope of coverage, and then the exclusion. So I don't know how it sounds these days, but the report needs to be, I think, honest and measured about, because insurance coverage in superflood sites is notoriously, not enough often.
let me go through my comments here, because it's a good memo, but and Chris wrote it. But I think this has to, there's some context and some clarification, I think, that is missing. And so I sent these comments. Let me just go through these to explain why I think we need some, starting from the top, I think, Chris, what's the purpose of this memo? Right, what way you wrote the memo, and then you refer to the decision criteria, we developed this decision criteria. For making a recommendation to the select board, one of the decision criteria contains insurance coverage. Might will state that criteria, can the town obtain satisfactory ownership, liability protection through insurance, that's exactly, so I think it's worth it, since you're referring to that, I think we need to define what that is. When you get into, the policy, so 214Y Main Street, that's Knox Trail. So should we refer to it as Knox Trail, or, I mean, I didn't know what that was, I'm not, I know what it is, but everybody knows that it's Knox Trail, should we put that in parentheses?
Yeah, it's a very weird mailing address, and I think I think it's technically in the bus barn and the solar field. I think there might be a limit, there's a building where the bus workers
Yeah.
work out of.
So this is not a super fund, this is not analogous, this is another.
This is a superfund.
This is part of the this is part of WR Grace.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
Yeah, we
WR
own
Grace.
another.
I got, no, yeah, I know that, it's
The
not-
town acquired
so it's
part of WR
it's
Grace.
part of the Grace site, okay.
So could you
Sure. yeah.
just define that, I don't know, and then the specific example of the Knox Trail, I said, this is. Example is for informational purposes only, since it's unclear whether any future carrier for similar insurance would be non-admitted, and this refers to this, insurance, this is a non-admitted insurance company. I don't think that, if you wanna include that in there, that's fine, but it's not sure that we're gonna be faced with a non-admitted insurance company, it's a little bit of a red herring.
You said it's the same company that. Chris, didn't you say the company that quoted us is the company that provided this insurance?
Well, right, but it's not clear in the future whether it's gonna be a non-admitted insurance company or not, that's,
Right.
I think that's what I added here, it's not clear that it'll be non-admitted, I didn't take it out. So the first party, just for somebody reading this, first party is the town. Obligation insurance company to pay cleanup costs on behalf of the town for cleanup of pollution caused by the town. I think that should be clear in there. Third party claims, alleged damage related to pollution caused by the town. Okay,
But what about the extent of, is that, I haven't read this, but what about the extent of coverage?
just a second, we're getting to that. I didn't know, I can't imagine this is relevant, that, so the Maximus and the responsible parties are taking this material offsite to a landfill. How would the town,
Right.
since this will predicate in our negotiating liability protections, and it's stated in here a little later. We have a settlement agreement with EPA.
Right.
Which basically says all legacy pollution is not ours, that's where this starts, so would that be, why is that at all concerning to us?
Yeah, it's a recommendation by the insurance company that they're providing coverage from where the pollution is sourced to where it ends up. And to make sure that the town's not responsible for that.
But we're not responsible for
Like,
that.
no, but in other words, we
Someone
introduced,
could
if there's-
sue you.
What's that?
Someone could try and recover from the town for those damages, so this would cover the legal costs to get the case dismissed or something like that.
So the question would be, in that set of facts, would the coverage that we got under the consent decree carry us? And if you got a spill happening in Ohio that, goes into somebody's, swimming pool and kills a kid or something, do we get traced to in the liability chain? And I'm not sure that's entirely.
No, we have to explain in here that this is all predicated on the town getting liability protections through a settlement agreement from DOJ and EPA, which absolves us from any responsibility for cleanup or legacy chemicals, including transportation. Can somebody sue us?
I mean, I think that's a question for your town council is his negotiation gonna cover all of that?
but if we had to
It does already.
The town council it will negotiate everything. We don't know what the negotiation is gonna look like, but I'm saying this is predicated on getting ironclad.
So you're
Protections
saying
from
this
any
is a
legacy.
precondition for, yeah.
That's the starting point. I mean,
However, I would add one possibility. When you said that, the transfer off the site, my thought was exactly that. I mean, the responsibility for all of that falls within the legal responsibility to clean up, which is not ours. When you added all of what the town did. So let's just say the town acquires the site and decides to dig up some area for a new public works facility and goes below 10 feet.
okay, that's later on.
Wait,
That's-
this is still the town spills something on this site. And we dig up that stuff and we ship it off site to be disposed of.
David, hold
And
that
we
thought.
need to be covered in the transportation of it and in the disposal of it in its final place.
Right, this is,
That's a reason, that's
this is a good
just
thing.
any,
Right,
yeah. this
and we
is
can
not-
actually negotiate that out, we can say we don't want that coverage, and our premium would drop, but it would apply to, we're not talking about legacy chemicals, this would be
Right.
chemicals outside of the circle fund.
But it's also possible we might want to excavate below 10 feet, and we might file a soil remediation, soil management plan with EPA and get approved to do something, right? And then end up moving soil,
So we might wanna be
so
covered for that.
it's,
yeah.
this isn't necessarily the legacy, but it
We have to say-
it might affect town's actions that do.
Sure, that's a semi-decent hypothetical.
I mean, if we build a DPW facility in the site, we're probably gonna excavate below 10 feet,
And we're gonna have to have a soil management plan.
and we're gonna end up moving soil.
We're gonna end up moving soil. So I think maybe it has to be, so this is not legacy contamination, this is still town action of moving soil. So I think that kind of clarification, to make it relevant. Because I don't want anybody reading this and saying, what do you mean, the town's responsible for trucking Superfund sites? No, we're not.
That was the distinction that I wanted to draw.
This is, yeah, this distinction, this is town action in that.
And you're saying, Paul, that all of this presupposes that there's been a successful negotiation of those issues,
Yeah,
which we have all sorts of off-ramps for in the context of negotiating a final deal with.
right,
Yeah,
we don't know where those are gonna lead us, but this,
yeah.
the big hypothetical, even.
Yeah.
Insurance is that town council's been successful taking all legacy chemicals and clean up off the site. And anything beyond is what we do. Which includes, yeah, you're right, soil management plan, contaminated soil.
Right.
That we get permission to dig up.
Right.
That, so I think that context, I think is needed, so.
And then anything before that is covered in the SWARU. The SWARU says we're done.
Well, it's covered by something, I don't think. it's covered by
Something else. So
something.
SWARU says the site is ready for whatever the hell that stands for, site-wide, okay, which means that's the final kiss-off, that the cleanup, their part of it is done. Right?
But what
And
actually,
their part of it is digging, moving, all their responsibilities. They still have a responsibility for legacy chemicals, short of the town's action.
that's right.
That's the coverage.
Yeah, just the Swara doesn't, what takes it off is the settlement agreement that town council negotiates with EPA and DOJ. That's all the stipulations in there, what we're responsible for, what we're not, and even including third-party claims 10 years down the road. Could he take that off the table and say any third-party claim for legacy chemicals?
That goes into the ownership negotiation.
Yeah, everything's negotiable here, and but everything related to past sins is negotiable with EPA, and so, and that's, there's a whole list of those that Mina's gonna be working with.
I think that's the point, actually. These things are available to us, but the lawyer has to make them
Yeah,
actually apply to us.
Right.
And if they do not apply to us, the insurance question is pretty moot.
Well, we probably won't get insurance, but.
No, we probably won't take the site if we don't get
I
appropriate
am
liability.
100% sure, but that before Mina sits down and starts the negotiation, he will have met with the select board in town and have a long list of exactly the things the town wants to
yeah,
negotiate.
that's the key.
Yeah, I hope. I
So
guess
do these
contingent
things
trans-
stay in this document? I think they should.
Yeah, no, as long as, third-party claims are not on the, I think it just needs to say.
For town action.
For non-legacy.
Yeah, this is town action, same thing with contingent transportation. Town action, this doesn't, none of this pertains to, Superfund cleanup, this pertains to
For town.
contaminants that are left.
But again, I'm sorry to be redundant here, but there will be a limit to that in all those cases.
Yeah, so the limit,
The way you're saying it sounds like we're covered.
no, the limit in here starts at $50,000 and goes up to 10 million.
Yeah.
So that's what
But
we're
just-
coverage, so we're on the hook for anything over $10 million and
Yeah.
under 50,000.
Exactly.
But that's
Just
in there.
the style of the writing
Yeah.
suggests that we're covered here, we're covered
Yeah.
there, but we have to be reminded that the coverage is actually fairly modest.
Well, the coverage for that was pretty modest, but
Okay, let me go through so we can kind of come back, just some edits here about, you know, the coverage and pricing of the expected insurance system. It's negotiated to a later date, we have an indication, right? This is the indication, in other words, the expected insurance coverages, I think this is important here, and it speaks to what we just talked about. The indication that we can get insurance assumes the town will not contractually accept any liabilities associated with NMI StarMed legacy chemicals. And that such liability will be sought and obtained through negotiation of an agreement with the federal government.
liability protection,
That's what we're talking about, liability, we won't accept any liabilities associated with legacy chemicals.
and it's such
That's-
liability protection.
Yeah.
Where you say liability will be, it shouldn't be liability protection all of the stuff.
That such liability of protection, yes, of course. So what you're talking about are these possible loss scenarios, I think are useful, but I want to make sure that whoever reads this knows that it's assumed that a management plan and a system for institutional control management would be in place to minimize the possibility of violations. Nevertheless, these things could happen. Just want to make sure that this is, that,
We want to understand the insurance coverage in the event that they do.
yeah, these things can happen even with a plan, but we're gonna have a plan that prevents, hopefully, these from happening, and I think these are good. Now, Concord Public Works mistakenly excavates below 10 feet. Okay. If this action results in the release of hazardous substances, for example, piles of soils at the surface, and if EPA were not notified, and if a soil management plan was not filed, then we're on the hook. But we can excavate, we can notify EPA we're gonna do that, and we can do a soil management plan. But if those things don't happen, if we just excavate without a plan, without notifying EPA, then we could be in trouble. So I just, we wanna have those modifications.
That's
in there.
mistakenly excavated.
Yeah, I mean, if town staff mistakenly interprets the map and a permit was issued mistakenly for installation, I mean, it would have to be a mistake.
It actually involves a legacy chemical, but it's our action that, or failure to act, that put it in the environment,
Right, it's
but.
Because all the stuff
It's-
above
it's a
this
lot.
section was about the things that were
sort
not
of a
like.
violation of the institute.
Yeah, it says remove soil below 10 feet and uses it to regrade the surface. So implicit in this, that we're releasing hazardous substances by putting in piles.
Someone has to get hurt.
Again, without notification, without soil management plan. So that was just my comments there, just to kind of have somebody read this out of context. If they don't read the report, I mean, there are people in town who are gonna go right to this insurance section,
Yeah,
and we wanna make sure that we bring them back into things in the report. Okay, so. So I'm sorry to monopolize the conversation, but those are, but I think these are good examples, they're all mistakes, and the town would be, on the hook if we make mistakes. We don't have a good management plan. Now, the extent of coverage, I'm not sure. Pam, to your point about the dollars and cents of this thing, I don't know how we. This violation, I don't know if this is a big violation, if this is
I
a
think
6-figure or 10-figure.
Maybe it's just in the way we draft the narrative and make it measured, as opposed to it covers this, I mean, just modifiers. could
But
be-
that section with the coverage was actual coverage, that stated what the actual coverage was for the Knox Trail.
Precedents, yeah.
So,
Maybe you said this, but I didn't pick up, is the 10 million per incident, per occurrence, or 10 million aggregate?
I think it's a 10 million aggregate,
Aggregate, that's-
annual limit.
Annual.
Yeah.
Annual aggregate.
Yeah.
Which is very little if you have to pick up dirt, and nothing if somebody says their baby was killed by this. So there's a lot of depends.
So that's why, that's why the drafting has to, and this is. for
Moderate the
public,
language,
Just
yeah.
moderate the language, make sure the public knows that, you know, this is obviously within limits.
What, I think you did mention here, I don't think, unless I missed it, was litigation costs. Does any insurance coverage, if somebody sues us, even if it's a frivolous lawsuit and town council has to get it thrown out, it's gonna cost money to do that.
Yeah, the litigation is referred to as the defense costs, so it's in there, and we do have coverage.
Okay,
We had coverage with the old site and they've quoted coverage for the new quote. So that would be, that cost would go towards the limit of liability, but yeah, it's included.
yeah. Now, there could also be a point of negotiation for me that, you know, if if down the road somebody sues the town for something that they're responsible for, can that be part of the settlement agreement that they pay the costs of that? We're still involved, we're still gonna have to get town council involved, even if it's, ultimately EPA's responsibility, but so it's gonna cost us something to defend any kind of lawsuit. It's the way litigation goes.
so
Any
do we
further
need a section 5 at all?
conclusion?
Yeah.
I don't think we did.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is just a lot of substance here, and I think,
And this gets included in what we submit now
I'm
It's
sorry,
an appendix,
as an appendix.
this
and it's
appendix
already
four
referenced
point
in
four.
the document.
And the main, the short section in the report refers to this, or it should.
It says more information is in this appendix.
Yeah.
It doesn't specifically say this information is there. The numbers that are quoted in the operations section are not included in this memo. They're what the cost would be for the next, because you said the cost shan't come down. So it's there for someone to read if they want to, and if someone trusts the town that they know what they're doing, then. Doesn't want to second guess them.
Chris.
Yeah. So Chris, do you like those changes Paul suggested?
Say again?
Are you comfortable with the changes Paul suggested?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, I think it's helpful to make.
Yeah, I think the answer to my question, why those things are included, I think as long as you say, if this is a town responsibility as opposed to a supervisor responsibility, that'll take care of that, and that explains that. Any further discussion on this? I think if you can. if you can,
Paul,
Yes, Terry, hi.
yeah, I can't find the raised hand on today, but, I had a few questions, and I apologize if you've already covered this. So, for example, one of your comments was that all of the legacy chemicals, and everything are going to be covered already by the EPA. We all know that, but like you said, if someone just turns to this section, do you think right in the beginning there should be, maybe where you put the purpose of this memo? You can put, if this is not about the legacy chemicals, those are discussed elsewhere, something like that, those are already covered.
Yeah, it's later on, I kind of throw that in there, but maybe that would help. But this, I mean, the legal section kind of covers some of that, but I think it would be helpful. My only hesitation here is that, again, if it's town action that causes legacy chemicals to be unearthed and disposed,
Right.
you know, it's a town action versus a Superfund cleanup.
Right, that's what I'm saying, I think, can you, like, distinguish and say, this section is about town actions only. Legacy operations were already covered in another section, which,
Did you read the whole thing, Terry, and feel that you
no,
couldn't?
so I did, so I apologize, I'm not sure if this, I know this is an appendix, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is in the meeting packet too, so if you wanna take a look at it, cause I actually think he does say this is this and then this is that, so.
yeah, let's read it again, it doesn't hurt to say right off the bat, you know. Doesn't hurt to be redundant, I like redundancy in this report is good, because people will read only the sections they want to read,
Yeah.
and they need to bump into things in multiple sections.
So my second question might be another redundant thing. Is there another section in the report where you talk about, maybe in the, institutional control section? Are you recommending the town appoint a specific key person or staff person, to manage, the institutional controls?
Yes, we do, and I think I changed it to one suggestion. We, we make a specific recommendation, it's the building
Okay.
commission,
All right,
but
great.
that's a suggestion.
I mean, it's a fairly detailed
Yeah.
recommended plan for the institutional control.
Yeah, it's,
So you might wanna take a look at it.
maybe it's
That's
overly
not-
prescribed, but that's why, it's a suggested plan, but, I mean, Carrie's gonna have to decide who
Right.
has that. Who has the responsibility, we make one recommendation, so it's a department, it's a person.
Okay.
That's actually in the main report, not an
Right.
appendix to the
Yeah.
report.
And then my last question is about, these exclusions that we hopefully can negotiate. I'm wondering if other towns that have Superfund sites, particularly in Massachusetts, have been able to negotiate this type of exclusion.
So.
I think we put
We
in the
we looked
section,
at that and basically we found that the other Superfund sites in Massachusetts where there was municipal ownership of the site, where the towns took it. And in Louisiana, they don't have any special insurance for this.
Wow.
Yeah, we're thinking above and beyond the concerns
do you
here.
think that's because they already have insurance, town insurance that might,
They
cover
probably have
this?
town cover, that
Yeah.
would cover most of what it, and they trust the protections from EPA.
Or they know.
And they don't have really litigious populations like we do.
Or
It's not a
or
line
they may
question.
know that it's a fool's errand, because it's.
This is all speculation, because we didn't really discuss it with them, so.
Carrie discussed it with two of them,
As to why they didn't,
as to whether they had it.
right, not as to why.
Not as to why they didn't have it.
Would be a good question.
And, you know, some of them have things like they have like an airport at the site, or things in their towns where they do have special exclusions for the fuel at the airport spilling in Louisiana, or, you know, things like that. So it's not on the Superfund site, but they're familiar with pollution protections for things like that, so. It really, we are going above and beyond when we're overthinking how much insurance we get, and that may be because we have experience with a lot of people suing Concord, so.
We sure do.
Okay, thank you.
well, we're going above and beyond, it's just, we wanna maximize the comfort decision makers and the public that, you know,
No.
that the superfan boogeyman will come back and
I
grab us later. Okay, that's great, thank you. I don't have anything else on the agenda, we've already discussed the remaining schedule, so let me just repeat. We have November 26th meeting, and I hope we'll be able to vote on the report, I'll get you with the glossary change, with this change, with the business case modification we talked about, I'll get you the final report. That, at that point, next week, probably won't be final proofreading. And that'll be done by the town staff after that, but, that, I don't think that'll be a heavy lift, because I think you guys have been over this so many times. And, you know, and every punctuation mistake that I've made has been picked up. Every missing word has been picked up. I said,
It's just a long report, so it's just.
yeah, we've had a lot of eyes on the report already, I think it's pretty good. That's the agenda for tonight, David.
Thank you for the ability to serve. I will not be at the next meeting, my wife's birthday. You can enjoy the wine amongst yourselves. And assuming we don't meet thereafter, I'm done.
Well, I'm
I
gonna,
mean, I'm done to this point,
well,
not disconnected from the activity, but
if we don't have a meeting on December 13th, I'm going to suggest maybe we just all get together at the Colonial Inn for a drink or something.
and if that's the night of November 26th,
No, that's November 13th.
December 13th, okay.
November 20, no,
6th is my wife's birthday, so,
November 26th.
yes.
Yeah.
So,
So I will confess to on November 26th, I will leave no later than, probably 8:45. Because my family from Vermont is arriving.
The goal is there's a complete report. We meet, we approve minutes, and then we vote on whether we're recommending.
Okay, so I'm leaving, I have to leave, I just wanna confess to the.
Yeah.
If, I could give you an exact time when you take the vote, you can dial in Zoom and
I
say.
think we're gonna be
aye.
having about.
yeah, what do you think? Here, honey, happy birthday, and I know we're at your birthday party. And I know that the committee has talked about the wording of the report for several meetings, but I have to interrupt our dinner to go vote on it. No,
You're gonna,
Give
not gonna happen.
Wait, if I wrote you a note, if I wrote you a note.
An excuse? The chairman's
You
excuse?
should assign your vote to Paul.
I'm ready to vote on the thing now. I don't think anything is going to change substantially enough for me to have any problem saying I completely support it.
We voted on the recommendation.
Good, glad that's on the record. We have 3 members who aren't here. I'd like to have, you know, we could vote, we need a quorum. If we have a quorum, we're gonna vote on it.
Right, yeah, of course.
But we'll have more than 6 people. Any public comments? I don't know if anybody else, Terry's on. If not, we're adjourned.